The Korean War is often remembered for its sudden offensives and frozen stalemates, but one of its most consequential lessons emerged far from the front lines and command tents. It appeared in aid stations, foxholes and evacuation points, places where outcomes were decided quietly, often within minutes. What most people don't realize is that survival rates in Korea did not improve primarily because of better weapons or even faster evacuation alone. They improved because soldiers and medics relearned a simple rule of improvised aid that modern armies had partially forgotten. Stabilize the body first, treat the injury second. That shift, small as it sounds, changed survival odds dramatically. If this kind of overlooked military history is why you're here, consider subscribing to Echoes of Valor. This channel focuses on the lessons wars actually taught the people who had to endure them, not just the strategies written afterward. The Korean War forced armies to confront what happens when formal medical systems break down under terrain, weather, and mass casualties. It also revealed that improvised aid, done correctly, was not a last resort, but often the deciding factor between life and death. The Korean War exposed how fragile early battlefield medicine still was. By 1950, many assumed battlefield medicine had matured during World War II. Blood plasma, antibiotics, and evacuation chains were in place. On paper, survival should have been higher than ever, but Korea proved otherwise. Mountainous terrain, extreme cold, and fluid front lines really stretched medical systems to their limits. Wounded soldiers often waited hours before reaching aid stations. In winter, shock and exposure killed as reliably as blood loss. Medics discovered that, honestly, textbook wound care meant little if the body shut down before treatment could take effect. This forced a re-evaluation of priorities. What mattered most in those first few minutes was not perfect bandaging or diagnosis, but preventing physiological collapse. The overlooked rule was simple but, counterintuitive. The rule that emerged was straightforward: stop heat loss and stabilize circulation before attempting detailed treatment. In practical terms, this meant insulating the wounded, elevating them when possible, controlling bleeding with pressure, and minimizing movement, even if the wound itself appeared severe. This approach really ran against instincts. Soldiers wanted to inspect wounds immediately. Medics wanted to clean and dress injuries as soon as possible. Korea taught that these impulses could be, fatal when shock was allowed to progress unchecked. The body does not fail gradually in these conditions. It fails abruptly. In Korea, ideal medical kits were often unavailable. What saved lives was improvisation guided by principle. Parkas became blankets. Shelter halves were folded into ground insulation. Helmets were used to elevate limbs. Rifles propped stretchers. Cold changed the physiology of injury. Blood thickened. Vasoconstriction masked bleeding until movement resumed. Pain responses dulled, hiding severity. Shock advanced quietly. Medics learned that wounded soldiers who appeared stable could deteriorate rapidly once exposed or moved. As a result, the first act of care became thermal management. If the body stayed warm, other treatments had time to work. This insight reshaped cold-weather medical doctrine across NATO and Warsaw Pact forces in the decades that followed. Survival rates improved not because injuries became less severe, but because fewer casualties crossed the point of no return before reaching care. By delaying secondary treatment until the body was stabilized, medics bought time. Time in battlefield medicine is not measured only in minutes to surgery. It is measured in how long the body remains capable of responding to intervention. Korea proved that improvised stabilization could extend that window significantly. Later studies of Korean War casualty data showed a clear pattern. Early stabilization correlated more strongly with survival than wound classification alone. This was not a lesson handed down from high command. It spread laterally. Medics shared techniques. Soldiers learned by watching who survived. Informal training filled gaps left by manuals written for different wars. Only later did formal doctrine catch up, embedding stabilization-first principles into combat lifesaver training and modern tactical combat casualty care. The origins of that shift lie in Korea's frozen ground. What modern survivalists often miss about improvised aid today. Improvised aid is sometimes treated as a collection of tricks. Korea teaches that it is a mindset. Improvisation works only when guided by an understanding of cause and effect. Stopping shock is not dramatic, it looks passive. But it preserves the conditions under which all other actions matter. This lesson applies beyond war to disasters, accidents, and remote environments where help is delayed. Wars are remembered for decisions made at high levels, but they are endured through countless small decisions made under stress. The improvised aid rule that emerged in Korea reminds us that survival is often determined by priorities, not resources. Understanding these overlooked lessons matters because they reveal how easily preventable deaths occur when assumptions go unchallenged. Korea forced a correction that still shapes medical training today. If you value this kind of careful, experience-driven military history, subscribe to Echoes of Valor and share this video with others who care about understanding war beyond surface narratives. These lessons were learned the hard way, and they remain worth remembering.